Hi, Sage here with Hippie from the 49th and the Hippie Sunday Bible Review. Last time, at Mount Sinai, God spoke directly to the people. Thunder, lightning, fire, and smoke covered the mountain as the 10 Commandments were given, laying the foundation for how the Israelites were to live. But the people were afraid. They stepped back and asked Moses to speak to God for them. Now the story moves from commandments to something deeper. What does it actually look like to live as a free people? In these chapters, we see laws that shape justice, responsibility, and daily life. Rules about fairness, even towards enemies. And a powerful reminder to care for the vulnerable, the poor, the foreigner, the widow, and the orphan. Then a covenant is made, a promise between God and his people. And finally, God gives instructions for something extraordinary, a sanctuary, a sacred place where he will dwell, not above them, but among them. From laws to covenant to presence. This is where the relationship between God and his people truly begins. Let's continue. After the 10 Commandments, the story takes a turn. Now, it's not just big, sweeping rules. It's the details of everyday life. God begins laying out laws for how this new society is supposed to function. It starts with servants. If a Hebrew servant is bought, he is to serve for 6 years, but in the 7th year he must be set free, no payment required. If he came alone, he leaves alone. If he had a wife, she leaves with him. But if his master gave him a wife, and they had children, things get complicated. The wife and children remain with the master. So if the servant chooses to stay with them, he can make that choice. But it becomes permanent. His ear is pierced as a sign that he will serve for life. Then there are laws about women in servitude, ensuring they are not to be treated carelessly or discarded. If a man takes a woman into his household, he is responsible to provide for her food, clothing, and material or marital rights. If he fails to do that, she is to be set free. From there, the laws turn serious: violence, murder, and justice. If someone intentionally kills another person, the punishment is death. But if it's accidental, there's room for mercy, a place of refuge. There is also strong protections for family. Striking or even cursing a parent carries severe consequences. Kidnapping, also punishable by death. Then comes laws about injury. If people fight and someone is hurt, the one responsible must compensate for lost time and ensure healing. And here we get the famous principle: eye for eye, tooth for tooth. Not about revenge, but about measured justice. The punishment must match the harm, no more, no less. Even servants are given protection. If a master permanently injures a servant, like damaging an eye or knocking out a tooth, that servant must be set free. Then the chapter moves into responsibility for accidents. If an animal, like a bull, kills someone, if it was unexpected, the animal is destroyed, but the owner is not blamed. But if the animal was known to be dangerous and the owner did nothing, then the owner is held responsible. There are also laws about pits, property damage, and livestock. who pays, who's responsible, and how to make things right. And while this chapter can feel intense, here's what's really going on. This is about accountability. It's about protecting people in a rough world. And it's about making sure justice is fair, not chaotic. Because freedom without structure, it doesn't last. The laws continue, but now the focus shifts to something very practical: how people treat each other's properties and each other. It starts with theft. If someone steals an animal or sells or kills it, they must repay far more than they took. 5 times for an ox, 4 times for sheep. Because this isn't just about punishment, it's about making things right. There are also laws about self-defense. If a thief is caught breaking in at night and is killed, the defender is not held guilty. But if it happens during the day, when the situation could be handled differently, then it becomes a different matter. Then comes laws about responsibility. If your animals wander into someone else's field and destroy their crops, you pay for it. If you start a fire and it spreads, you're responsible. If someone entrusts you with their belongings and they go missing, the situation is brought before judges to determine the truth. And over again, the same idea comes up. You are responsible for what is in your care. There are also guidelines for borrowing and lending. If you borrow something and it's damaged while in your care, you repay it. But if the owner is present or it was hired, the responsibility changes. It's all about fairness, not exploitation. Then the chapter shifts tone and gets more serious. Certain actions are strictly forbidden. Practices like sorcery, bestiality, and worshiping other gods are not tolerated. But right alongside those strict rules, something else stands out. A strong call for compassion. Do not mistreat or oppress a foreigner. You were foreigners in Egypt. Do not take advantage of widows or orphans. And this part hits hard. If they cry out, God says, I will hear them. There are also instructions about lending money. If someone is in need, you are not to charge interest. If you take a cloak as a pledge, you must return it by nightfall, because it may be the only thing that person has to stay warm. And God makes it clear, when they cry out to me, I will hear, for I am compassionate. The chapter ends with reminders to honor God through offerings, respect, and living as a set-apart people. And when you step back, the message becomes pretty clear. This isn't just about rules, it's about responsibility and compassion living side by side. Justice matters, but so does mercy. And how you treat the most vulnerable really matters. This chapter starts to zero in on something we all recognize: truth and fairness. The people are told, do not spread false reports. Do not side with wrongdoing just because everyone else is doing it. And don't twist justice, whether it's to favor the powerful or even the poor, because real justice isn't about picking sides. It's about what's right. And then comes the surprising one. If you see your enemy's animal wandering off, return it. If someone who hates you is struggling, help them. So this isn't just about the laws anymore. It's about how you treat people you don't even like. The chapter keeps coming back to fairness. Do not accept bribes. Do not deny justice. Do not oppress foreigners because you remember what that felt like. Then the focus shifts to rhythm. Not just work, but rest. Every 7th year, the land is to rest, left unworked so the poor and even the wild animals can eat. And every 7th day, the people rest too. Not just the landowners, but servants, animals, even foreigners. Rest isn't a luxury here, it's built into life. Then came the festivals. 3 times a year, the people are to gather and celebrate. The Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of Harvest, the Feast of Ingathering. Moments to stop, remember, and recognize where everything comes from. And then the chapter looks forward. God promises to send an angel ahead of them to guide them into the land that's been promised. But there's a warning. Do not adopt the ways of the people already there. Do not follow their gods, because that, more than anything, would pull them off course. And then comes an interesting detail. God says He won't drive out their enemies all at once, but little by little. So the land doesn't become empty, and so the people can grow into it. And when you step back, the message is pretty clear. Do what's right, even when it's unpopular. Treat people fairly, even your enemies. Build rest and gratitude into your life. And understand that growth doesn't happen all at once. It happens step by step. This chapter really feels like a bridge from laws to a way of living. If you are enjoying this Bible review, please hit the like and subscribe if you haven't already. It only takes a second and it's free. By doing so, you boost our ratings, and that helps us to do what we do. We appreciate it so much. Up to this point, the Israelites have heard the laws. Now, they make it official. God calls Moses along with Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of the Israelite elders to come up the mountain. But there are limits. They are to worship from a distance. Only Moses can come near. So Moses goes back to the people and tells them everything the Lord has said, all the laws, all the instructions. And once again, the people respond together. Everything the Lord has said, we will do. This isn't hesitation, this is commitment. Moses writes everything down. The next morning, he builds an altar at the base of the mountain and sets up 12 stone pillars representing the 12 tribes of Israel. Sacrifices are made, burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. Then Moses does something symbolic. He takes half the blood and sprinkles it on the altar. The other half he sprinkles on the people. And he says, "This is the blood of the covenant that the Lord has made with you." It's a binding moment, a visual sign that this relationship is now sealed. Then something extraordinary happens. Moses, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and the 70 elders go up the mountain, and they see God not fully described, but beneath him is something like a pavement of sapphire, clear as the sky. And instead of judgment, they share a meal. They eat and drink in his presence. Then the focus shifts back to Moses. God calls him further up the mountain. He is told to come and receive the stone tablets, the written law. Moses goes, taking Joshua with him part way, then leaves the elders behind with Aaron and Hur in charge. As he climbs, the mountain is covered in cloud. The glory of the Lord settles on Mount Sinai. For 6 days, the cloud covers it. Then on the 7th day, God calls to Moses from within the cloud. To the people below, it looks like a consuming fire on top of the mountain, and Moses walks straight into it, into the cloud, into the unknown. And he stays there for 40 days and 40 nights. And this chapter really marks a turning point. The relationship is no longer just spoken, it's sealed. The people have agreed, but now comes the question, can they live it out? And Moses steps into something deeper, closer to God than anyone else. After giving laws for how the people should live, God now turns to something completely new. Build me a sanctuary. Not a distant temple, not a mountain, a place among them. But this isn't random. God gives very specific instructions. The people are to bring offerings, but only from those whose hearts are willing. Gold, silver, and bronze. Fine linens in blue, purple, and scarlet. Wood, oil, spices, and precious stones. This is the first time worship is built by voluntarily giving, not command alone. At the center of it all is a sacred chest, the ark, made of acacia wood, covered in pure gold, inside and out, carried with poles, never touched directly. Inside, it will hold the testimony, God's law, and on top, the atonement covered with 2 gold cherubs facing each other, wings spread. This is where God says, I will meet with you. Not just symbol, this is present as the meeting point between God and humanity. Next, a table, also covered in gold. On it sits the bread of the presence. Always there, always before God. A constant reminder, provision comes from Him and stays before Him. Then comes the lampstand, hammered from a single piece of pure gold, designed like a tree, branches, buds, blossoms. 7 lamps burning into the space. It's not just lighting, it symbolizes life, growth, and divine presence. So what this chapter is really saying, this isn't just construction. It's a shift in the entire story. God gave laws, now He gives presence. God rescued them, now He dwells with them. God spoke from a mountain. Now He comes into their camp. In simple terms, I'm not just your God from afar. I'm going to live with you. So, what did we actually see in these chapters? At first glance, it feels like a long list of rules, but when you step back, something bigger starts to come into focus. These laws weren't random, they were about building a society from the ground up. A people who had just come out of slavery, now learning how to live with fairness, responsibility, and respect for one another. Treat people justly, take responsibility for your actions, care for the vulnerable, don't twist truth or follow the crowd into wrongdoing. And then it goes deeper. This isn't just about behavior, it's about relationship. And people agree to follow God. A covenant is made. It's not forced, it's chosen. And finally, the most important shift of all, God doesn't stay distant. He doesn't remain on the mountain. He says, build me a place so I can be with you. In simple terms, these chapters show us that freedom isn't just leaving something behind, it's learning how to live differently moving forward. And more than that, God isn't just giving rules, He's building a relationship. And for the first time, He's not just leading His people, He's moving into live among them. Please let me apologize for my birds. They are in 2 different rooms outside of where I am, and when they hear me talking, they automatically assume I'm talking to them, so they're answering with loud squawking. So join us next week. In the meantime, keep praying, be kind, and keep the faith. Blessed be.